Everybody, Corrie Thorne, spiritual healer, coming in to do my channel messages for the week. I have not been in again. If I don't think I was in at all last week. I was having to take some well-needed rest time. This energy has been a lot. It has taken a lot from a lot of us that are light workers that work in healing. Um, if you're not sensitive to energy, then you probably weren't so affected by the last I want to say the last few years, but it feels like for me it's like we've just come through almost as if I've just been spit out of a tornado and just kind of being set free. But I did become ill and I've been taking some time and body ill. Um, that my neurological has taken a toll, a hit, and I had to take some rest time. So I'm back, slowly coming back, not all the way back into all of my work. If you're someone who's waiting for a call back, a text back with an appointment or a scheduling appointment, don't worry, you're on the list. Everyone who's been messaging is all in order on the list. I am booking into the end of March. So no worries, you're not missing out on an appointment. Um, I'm just taking my time to do what needs to be done in a run of a day and still giving myself rest. So if that's where you are, if you feel like you've exhausted and depleted every part of you and you keep trying to push and push and push, don't be a superhero. You can't keep pushing through everything. Sometimes you just need to stop, pause, rest, and give yourself that rest. And I very much appreciate the people that message me and say, oh, I got this solution, that solution. You remember, I work as a spiritual healer. There's not much that I have not done or tried, but our past leaves wounds that are, sometimes we have to deal with in modern day medicine. I'm left with some skeletal skeletal issues, but no skeletons in my closet. Um, I've done all of that work, and I have severe bone issues, and the inflammation not so much. Is I have to have back surgery, and that just happens. So thank God that we also have angels on earth that are called surgeons in modern day medicine that can also help us as well. It's a well blended part of life that everything is equally as important. Don't discount the brilliance that is upon this earth as if they don't know what they're doing and trying to heal everything yourself. Sometimes you got to reach out, and that's part of the message of this week is about learning to reach out, learning to not to be so quick to shut down or to be closed off to help, to guidance, to assistance that may be outside of areas where you would have searched before, where you would have been looking before. Do not be afraid to explore, open your mind, gain new perspectives. That's the whole part. We're releasing and letting go of some of the toxic energy. And it don't come by canceling out the whole world or by trying to delete anyone who don't have the same view as you. That's not causing problems. That's called band-aids, and that's you just getting your own way, and that doesn't really help us because that's not going to solve the problem. By everybody thinking alike, having to be forced to be a certain way, we are suppressing, and that is suppression, and suppression will eventually repress. It will come back up and it will rise again. How about we find solutions? How about we start seeking and acting as if we are grown adults, and we start looking for uh, healthy solutions that is for the highest good of all, and it helps all of humanity. A big part of this week's message is about dignity and being able to step back into our integrity. We get so caught up sometimes in a belief system, or we get so caught up in a cause or being an activist to everything, and we want to belong and be a part of something that feels like it's changing the world. But when it changes us to a degree that it makes us uglier or it brings out the worst of us, then we are not coming from a place of dignity. When we're disgracing and we're humiliating other people to make ourselves look good, to make ourselves feel good, we are not serving the highest good. And when I see that, I'm like, that really reminds me of being a kid in school, and you're only good enough if you belong in a certain group, if you act a certain way to be in a group. It's like being the star of certain clubs, and you can only get in certain clubs if you are as good as the people in the club, and that's all false, and that's ego. And so what makes them so great is their self identity of creating what they believe to be acceptable, to be elite, to be the best, to be the top. And that is not a truth. Everyone up on this earth, no matter what their view, no matter what their thought, deserves to be treated with dignity. Humanity has lost dignity. We have lost our sense of connection. And I mean human world. I don't mean the spirit world. I don't mean the guides. I just feel like partly as being an observer and a witness to a lot of things that I've been seeing happening, and by staying in this middle of the crossroads with the opportunity to go either which way, I'm like, no thanks. I don't agree with all of this. I don't agree with all of that. I don't see things this way. When I want to get my answers, when I want to know my truth, I rise higher. I don't go lower. And by going higher, we go to the when we can move into that God consciousness of thinking that we have to think beyond our own little micro moments or what we think is a major issue that's in front of our eyes, because our eyes do lie, and I say it all the times, is that there's something bigger that has caused this. The unseen wounds are more of the issue than the wounds that you see surface. And the unseen wounds comes by the 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 virus that is spread. And I'm like, I've got to be so careful your words, because we're not allowed to even speak anymore without being censored, without being judged, without being criticized, without being shut down. And it is a horrible, horrible experience that one word can have a whole world turn against you and destroy your life, take away your livelihood. Why would we think it is okay to cheer on destroying somebody's life? Even if somebody has to pay for, an experience, whatever, why would we cheer it? Where did we lose ourselves to cheer destroying people's lives, to see their whole family destroyed, to wish horrible thing upon people's family, to want to destroy their children's lives, to want to destroy, everyone, to see their homes gone, to see them lose everything? Why is it that we get so involved in being an activist to those angers and fears that we want to destroy everything? We're seeing it environmentally, we are seeing it everywhere, and we're seeing it in industries where you get so caught up in what your goal is, what you want to see happen so bad that you don't think. It's like you want to be the one who causes the earthquake, but you don't think about the after effects of the earthquake. When you think of the after effects of the earthquake and trying to recover from a storm that is caused because you wanted to do something, it leaves a lot of damage. And so when you do that, and I'm telling you, I live in a province where, we got the good, we got the bad, and we have to, and we make changes, but we're not as bad as what the world tries to make you out to be sometimes. And so I see a lot of people that are in industries, in jobs, in lives where, it's talking about shutting down this and shutting down that. Well, when you shut down this and you shut down that and you close down everything, and that's what I'm getting so clear in this message. What you want so bad, you take a good look around of what you also cause. And it's so easy to say, well, just be this, there'll just be that. Well, that might be 20 years from now. We have to live in what we can do right now and how we can still sustain and be able to still create a life and not have people being driven from their homes, not having people to be without jobs, not having people to be without food. So when you're an activist to shut down everything, you're also sometimes for poverty. You can say you're not, but you are, because you're very much putting other people in poverty. You're leaving other people flat ass broke. You're making sure everyone else, you at the cost of getting what you want. You don't look behind to see the damage that you've left behind, as long as you can hold your flag and say you have won. And if you're in that energy, and if that's the way you're thinking, it is time for us to stop, to pause, to take a good look at the life in which we are operating from our shadow selves, and we're able to come from our shadow selves and move and shift our energy into a higher thinking. That is operating from our lower vibrating energy. That's the Jezebel energy. That's the energy of imposter light. That's what fools us into believing that we're doing something of greatness and something that is good. When we can come above that, when we can drop the weapons, drop the armor, drop the harsh words, drop the judgment, drop the criticism, drop it all, put it all down. What is for the highest good? What is for the highest good? Because when you stop operating from your heart and you're only operating from your head, there is some major issues, because you're contributing your past history experience or your ancestors that's not alive in your life right now, and then that becomes an issue that is in today. It's not saying that we can't make sure that the past is not going to happen again, or that we can, but we can do it in a different way than destroying people's lives. We can do things in a more healthy way. Part of my reason why I was down ill is the illness that I feel and the pain that I feel watching a world eat itself, destroy itself. We are eating our own, we are destroying our own. We've turned against our own people, we've turned against humanity. And when we turn against humanity and we say we're here to wake it, you're not waking it, we're killing it. And so when we're trying to stifle and shove that energy down, we're eventually this is going to repress and it's going to come again because we're still not on the right path. That right path is not about perfecting. And it's not about the world is going to be perfect ever, imperfectly perfect. There's going to be flaws, there's going to be specks, there's going to be things that are going to take years to work out. But we got to be very careful on what we're doing and what we're doing sometimes to get our own way. And the cost that it's costing a lot of people is really hurting. We do it in relationships, we do it in family, we do it in areas in our life. So, for example, if you were raised in a family where, let's say, one parent wanted this whole, wanted to go to their addiction so bad, and their addiction won, and they lost themselves, and no matter what, their family was the one that paid. They got their life they wanted. They got the life that they chose. They wanted to live that life. And I'm not referring this to all addictions, and this is just a wide range. I just mean, say they found somebody else, they met somebody, they seen the beauty in this person, and they got so obsessed with somebody that they left all their family behind to make themselves happy. And then for the rest of your life, you're left crawling out of the hole that was left behind by dropping the bomb, by the abandonment issues, by the poverty, by the lack of money that's there, by no support, and all those things, and you keep crawling up out of that. And when you're crawling up out of that, and you're trying to get up out of that, you get angry and frustrated because that person in your story, in your mind, you're seeing them off living their life and they got what they wanted at the expense of the people they left behind. And that's what I'm talking about. You see it in industry, you see it in government, you see it everywhere where we get such a narrow vision and we lose all sense of integrity, of loyalty, of seeing other people's points of view, of seeing the world in a much more bigger view. And we get becomes this little point, and you laser focus on how everyone else has caused you to do what you did. And if they didn't do what they did, you wouldn't have done what you did. That's all a lie. You did what you did because you had a hunger, a thirst, a dream, a desire of to get there. And you lost focus on the why behind everything. And you lost focus on a lot of other things to get that one story. And the ones left behind and the people left crawling up behind. And if you're a victim of that and you were the one left crawling up, and now you believe the world has to pay for what one person did to you, well, now you're doing the same thing that that one person did. Now you're laser focused on one thought, one idea, and the whole world has to pay for that. And when the whole world has to pay, and we get a whole lot of people in that same thought, that same process, and then you gather together, well, that becomes a mob energy. And that mob energy becomes destructive because a whole bunch of negative, a whole bunch of fear, a whole bunch of abandonment, a whole bunch of hurt that all joins together and fights for a cause from a place of lower vibrating energy and anger will eventually cause destruction. And you forget your kindness, you forget about your truth of who you really are, and you lose yourself in the cause until one day something drastic happens and something big happens, and it costs a lot more than you can afford to keep paying for, but your heart is left to carry it. And when our hearts are left to carry it, when we're left to carry those burdens, then we all stop, the world pauses, and everybody's like, holy shit, what did we do? What were we doing in all that destruction and all that fight that still didn't get us anywhere? What were we doing? And what made us think that way? Media, um, other people's belief systems, old values, conditioning, fear stories, your childhood story that the world has to become responsible for, because hurt trying to fix hurt with hurt never works. Trying to fix trying to find peace trying to find peace in in a fight, you'll never find peace. You can't fight for peace and find peace. You can't make those things change by operating in that lower vibrating energy, the human energy, that human based on emotional history experiences of historic experiences of the past of your own personal history will never bring about that change. It's about bringing it home, coming back to you, and having to dig deep into your why to find the original source, the original problem, where this started for you, not where it started for the world, where it started for you. What were you really fighting for? What were you really fighting for? And how much collateral damage did you leave behind in that fight? And now can you live with that? And it's amazing how many people can turn the blind eye to what was left behind when we can justify our cause, we can justify our why, and we don't look behind because we don't have to look into the eyes of the people that we have harmed and hurt. When you can keep moving on and you keep talking and talking and talking about all the great things that you did, and you don't look back at what you didn't do, that's where the problem comes. In this journey, in more than existing right on my work, I look back at what I did because of my fear, because of my hurt, because of my insecurities, things that I contributed into out of my desire to get my want, to get my way. And when you can look deeper and you can go bigger and you can truly start to see, need to look at things in a different view. The only way I'm going to return to happiness and joy, the only way we're going to see this kind of light in the world is not by shutting everybody up. It's not by suppressing people. It's not by forcing and twisting arms to get people to think your way. It's about truly changing you. And when you change you, you're not so offended by the world. And so today we are using my oracle cards, and this is the back of them. And this is a portal. This is a door of opportunity and a door of moment. And this is an opportunity for us to move beyond our attitudes. Our attitudes are always showing, no matter how much we think they're not, and that this door is an opportunity for you to step into the everyday goddess energy of you, the divine feminine energy, and the everyday oracle. So it's that little innocent little girl. Now, she could be a beautiful little darling of an energy, or she could be so sweet and so, but that could be that little thing could be a tornado. She can be a volcano. She can be an eruption. She can cause such damage, or she can be the most love in the world. What do we want to be? And how do we want to be seen? And that power is in her beautiful yellow dress. If we understand power of a love, if we have a love for hate, if we have a love for vindication, if we have a love for power control, then our love is being operated on a whole wrong level. If we have a power, the power of love, the power of healthy intention, the power healthy of a healthy life. All of those things that power us up from based on the higher vibrating energy of love, of the God consciousness, of the angelic, of the spiritual world, the spiritual realm. That when we operate from that place, we understand what it means to inspire and not to influence somebody else into manipulation, into manipulating people into believing your way based on what you want to see happen in the world, or based on how much of this is being put into your hands, or how much you're going to get. So you shutting down something or you changing something, is it really, what are you gaining from this? Does anyone ask you who's paying you to shut that down? Who's supporting you to do that? And how much will your life change when that shuts down? How much will your life? But then look at all the people that lose jobs, look at all the people who are left without. And so then you get to see that all that damage that you left behind, also that you can sit up on a high pedestal and say, I was a part of that. Well, now you're also a part of the person that's packing their bags, that have no house, that have no roof over their head, that have starving children, that have no place to go, have no other job. And so when we look at it and we make change without that kind of destruction, can we bring about change in a slow process? Can we start to move towards finding new solutions? But this is how we get trapped. We get trapped in pointing out all the horrible fear things, and we don't want to know any other side. We don't want to listen. We don't want to know that that's not always truth. We want to believe our truth, and we get stuck in it. And then we laugh at anybody who's trying to tell us any different, and they're stupid and they're dumb and they don't know anything. And that's the issue. And that's causing our world to feel as if the energy is like, And then we talk about a new world and the golden age and the golden years. And, people talk about these little pods and we're all going to grow these little gardens. It's great that that's the way that you see the world. It's great that you can envision that. But you're creating somebody else's dream and somebody else's reality for them. And we don't get to create somebody else's dream and somebody else's reality. You want everyone else to live in your dream life. You want everyone else to be in your world. And if that's the way that you see life, even inside of your own home, I'm going to create the perfect home, and everybody that comes into my house is going to live in my perfect home because everyone has to keep me comfortable so that I don't have to deal with my fears and insecurities, so I don't have to heal. So everybody's going to be fold the towels perfectly. Everybody's going to make sure their shoes are in a certain place. Everybody's going to do this. So everybody's going to be controlled and under the thumb of one person, and they will not be allowed to be who they want to be, have an opinion, have a thought, have a view. That's dangerous. And that is not healthy for anyone. That's part of what we're changing. And so this is about learning to be in alignment with self, about doing the work so that we can find alignment, so that we can learn what it means to go with the flow. And these are my oracle cards, the everyday goddess. And this is, from the shadows. And so there's such beauty still in us, even if we're in our darkest days or we're in our shadow. And this is the beautiful willow. And she's a crone. She looks like she's youthful. She looks like she's young. She's kind of like looking at an old apple tree, an old orchard, when you see an old orchard and you see all the old trees, and when everything falls off and all the leaves go and the fall hits, and everything has to die and let it go, is that the old tree is still standing, right? And but looks like it's old. It's not dead. It's not, it's still there. It has great value. And then comes in the spring the beautiful new flowers, and then buds new life, and it provides fruit again. So everything that we keep saying the old is no good and the old has no purpose, and I don't, and you're old people and you don't know what you're talking about. There's so much wisdom, there's so much knowledge. And so some of the things that we have operating for us have been here for the years they have because they can sustain it, because they can hold us, they can take care of a lot of things, and they've done a great job. They've done great work. So sometimes we got to go look at that, and we have to look at how were they able to withstand the storms? How were they able to stay rooted and grounded and still grow? How is those trees, how is that life every single year able to keep supplying and keep going? So we need to start looking at those things and how to take those messages and incorporate that into the future, because that's the guardian. All of those things have been given to us so that we can take, so that we were taken care of. Without them and without finding them, without discovering them, we wouldn't be who we are today, and we wouldn't have the industries, the life that we have today. So we give homage and we give, when we honor and we give credit to that, then we can actually stop and not make everything our enemy, and to lose the enemy in us, so we can sit down and think and communicate and get wisdom and knowledge so that we can start to move forward, start planning for a future, and not be destroying everything along the way. That's how we're going to bring change. That's how we're going to bring change. So if we don't waken up, if we don't awaken to this whole narrative story of trying to get everybody on board to one story that manipulates and change the world to live in a few people's dreams, we're not going to have a world. We're not going to have the life that we should have. We're not going to have the freedom. We are going to be caged. Next thing we'll be all looking alike. And that's not going to work. But we can all be uniquely beautiful and coexist and live together. There's no doubt. And so this is also then comes in is the stargazer, and this is Frida. And see how she is so that universal energy. She's thinking beyond, she's on top of the world. She's not inside the problems. You'll never find solutions. You'll never find solutions while you stay in the problem. So if you're in the middle of the mob, if you're in the middle of that mob energy and everybody's shouting and screaming and everybody's living in the problem and living in the fear, nothing, you'll never find a solution. The problem will always be there. Somebody has to be courageous enough to rise above that, to step up. And today, that's what's being asked of each and every one of us, is that to rest, to pause, rise up and above, be willing to open our minds, open our hearts, and to be able to come home to us, to come into alignment, and to be able to see the change in us, to be the change in us. And when we are the change in us, we're coming from the shadow, and we can let the shadows, our old selves, to walk through our truth with love. When we transmute our anger to a voice of love, it's amazing the changes that happen. So when we can allow ourselves to transmute all that old story, all that old energy into a more loving, empowering, inspiring energy, the world will change. We let children be children and let them play, let them live, not instill our fear stories and teach them fear, teach them to hate other people and families and industries and people that they don't know. We're here to teach love, empowerment, to work together. We need to get back to that. And when we get back to that, that's when it's going to change. I'm tired of sick. I'm tired of having to be a light worker who embodies the light and trying to live in the middle and walk the middle line and to see such anger, hurt being slung around back and forth at each other as it bounces off the light. And when nobody wants to accept the light, when everybody nobody wants to accept any truth, when nobody wants to, because the truth coming from either side is so infested with anger, with frustration, with hurt stories, with past, that nobody is able to rise up out of that. We have to go this way. We have to get right here. So bring it home to you. Surrendering means I'm bringing it all back to you and taking ownership and responsibility for your role, for your, so that we can start to feel and live in a healthier body. Because if we don't live in a healthy body, it doesn't matter what else happens in this world. We will not be here. You will not be here to be able to experience it. And because we're destroying our minds, our hearts, we're living in anxiety and mental, unhealthy mental states and unhealthy bodies because we're so angst and full of anxiety and fear because that's what's being taught to us. And we have to move beyond that and rise above that. And that's the message that's coming through from the God energy, from Jesus, from the higher, from the ascendant masters, from those who have walked this earth before us. Telling us to slow down, breathe, and just take a look because we are not seeing what's really happening. And there's so much to see. And when we stop to take a good look and we get back to thy neighbors, loving thy neighbors, about the importance of the people that live next door to you, about the people that are in your own industry, that work in your area of work, everything that you're demanding to change also it will also impact you. So time to come back home. Time to come back into here. Peace means stop, sit still. Mindfulness does not mean going out and being angry at the world and trying to change the world. Mindfulness says, let's go back here. If you fully have faith and trust, you don't have such a desire to force that to change. Be at peace with you and find moments of peace today. And the more moments of peace that you start to find in your day, the more that we're going to be more willing to allow more peace into our lives and more peace into our hearts. And we can start to clear the visions of everything we think we see and we think we're hearing, and we can start to trust something beyond that material world. Much love. Hope this resonates with you in some way. And dignity, a dignified society would be a beautiful thing to see. And I can't force that to happen, but I can definitely say that that's, I made that a choice for me, benevolent being, to understand benevolence, to understand dignity, to understand integrity, to understand what true courage is. When you can return to those things, you can return to you. So much love. Have a beautiful week, and I will see you all very soon.